Have you ever wondered if someone could just fake their way through therapy? It sounds like something out of a movie, but for a certain type of individual, it's not just possible, it's a skill they've mastered. Today, we're diving deep into the chilling world of psychopathy and exploring how these individuals can manipulate, charm, and deceive even trained mental health professionals. We'll be drawing heavily from the foundational work of Dr. Hervé Cleckley and his book, The Mask of Sanity, to understand the 8 key strategies psychopaths use to fool therapists. Let's start with the first and most powerful tool in their arsenal: superficial charm and good intelligence. When a psychopath first walks into a therapist's office, they don't present as a monster. Far from it. They often appear witty, articulate, and incredibly likable. They are masters of first impressions. Within minutes, they can read the room, figure out what the therapist wants to hear, and start mirroring their values, their vocabulary, and even their emotional tone. Many have above average intelligence and excellent verbal skills, which allows them to sound deeply insightful, even when they're just spinning words. They can talk about their problems with a level of eloquence that makes the therapist think, wow, this person is really self-aware. But it's all part of the performance. The second technique is the convincing fake remorse. This is where their acting skills truly shine. A psychopath can produce tears on demand. They can make their voice tremble with emotion and deliver lines like, I know I've hurt people, or I finally realized the damage I've caused, with perfect emotional timing. They might say, I'm ready to change. I promise this time is different. A therapist who's trained to look for signs of breakthrough can easily mistake this performance for genuine remorse. They see the tears, they hear the self-blame, and they think they're finally getting through. In reality, it's just a calculated move to gain the therapist's trust and sympathy, and maybe even get a more favorable report. This leads us to our third point: insight that isn't real insight. This is a subtle but crucial distinction. Psychopaths are experts at parroting psychological language. They might have read books or even been in therapy before, so they know all the right buzzwords. They'll say things like, I see now that my childhood abandonment issues led to my problems with attachment, or my fear of failure is a defense mechanism. They can construct a perfect textbook-ready explanation for their behavior. They give the powerful impression of deep self-understanding, but here's the catch. There's zero genuine emotion or intention to change behind it. This is what Cleckley meant when he famously wrote, they know the words, but not the music. They can describe the emotion of guilt perfectly, but they don't actually feel it. They understand the concept of empathy intellectually, but they can't experience it. Next up is number 4, selective memory and revisionist history. When a psychopath tells their life story, it's a carefully curated narrative. They present a sanitized, logical version of events that conveniently omits the most damning facts. They'll talk about a job they had to leave because of a misunderstanding with the boss, conveniently forgetting to mention they were fired for stealing. They'll describe a relationship that just didn't work out, leaving out the part where their partner left because of their constant lying and manipulation. If you were to confront them with contradictions, they don't get flustered. Instead, they explain it all away with confident, plausible-sounding excuses. The story they tell in the therapy room is often a world away from the reality that their criminal records, employment history, and ex-partners will reveal. The fifth strategy is a masterclass in manipulation. Blame externalization that feels justified. We all know people who blame others for their problems, but psychopaths do it differently. They don't come across as bitter or angry. Instead, they present their history of failures with a kind of sad, resigned acceptance. It's always someone else's fault, but they frame it as if they're just a victim of circumstance, constantly misunderstood or betrayed. They might say something like, I've just had such bad luck with people. They always let me down. The delivery is so convincing that a therapist trained to be empathetic can start to see them as a victim. The therapist might think, this poor person has been so victimized their whole life, not realizing they're being skillfully manipulated into taking the psychopath side. This brings us to the sixth technique, which I call the future promising technique. This is the classic. if you just give me one more chance, everything will be different. They're fantastic salesmen of a fantasy future. They'll sell the therapist on a grand plan. If I can just move to a new city, they'll say, I can leave all this trouble behind and start fresh. Or if I can just get this new job, all my financial problems will be solved and I won't have to bend the rules anymore. They sell this vision with such infectious enthusiasm and optimism that it's hard not to buy into it. Therapists, who are fundamentally hopeful people, repeatedly fall for this fantasy of a new start because the psychopath makes it sound so believable and so close to being achieved. Number 7 is about their inconsistent affect, which clinicians often misread. A psychopath can flip from being perfectly calm and rational to intensely emotional in a split second, and then back again. In the moment, these emotional displays can feel incredibly authentic. One minute they're laughing, the next they're expressing deep-seated anger about an injustice. But the emotion is shallow and short-lived. What's more, they often lack the deep, underlying anxiety or neurotic defenses that are common in most other patients seeking therapy. This absence of inner turmoil can paradoxically make them seem healthier or more put together than genuinely distressed patients who are grappling with real conflict and pain. The therapist might see their lack of anxiety as a sign of resilience rather than a sign of a profound emotional deficit. Finally, the 8th point, their immunity to traditional therapeutic progress metrics. In therapy, progress is often measured by things like a patient gaining more insight or a reduction in their acting out behaviors. But for a psychopath, these are the easiest things in the world to fake. They can talk a great game about their newfound insight. They can behave perfectly for the first few months of treatment, especially if they're in a controlled environment like a hospital or prison where they're being observed. They'll do just enough to make it look like the therapy is working. But the moment the external pressure is off, or the moment they get bored, they revert right back to their old ways. The change never sticks because there's no internal motivation for it. It was always just a performance to achieve a goal. So, why does this happen? Cleckley's core warning to clinicians was this: the most striking feature of the psychopath is their inability to experience life as others do, despite an often flawless imitation of doing so. What convinces us of their sanity is precisely the absence of the typical signs of mental illness. They don't have the delusions of a psychotic person or the inner conflict of a neurotic person. They seem normal, even super normal. In short, psychopaths fool therapists because they are missing the very emotional equipment that therapy is designed to work with. Therapy is built on the foundation of empathy, guilt, and a genuine desire to change, all things a psychopath lacks. Yet, they have perfected the outward appearance of having all of those things. This is why Cleckley and many modern experts believe that classic talk therapy is often useless, and sometimes even counterproductive for true psychopaths. They don't use the therapeutic relationship as a vehicle for growth. They use it as another stage for their performance, another person to manipulate, another game to win. The therapy room, instead of being a place of healing, can become a training ground where they learn better ways to manipulate people by picking up psychological jargon and a better understanding of human emotions. It's a sobering thought, and it highlights the immense challenge that these individuals pose, not just to the mental health field, but to society as a whole. Understanding these tactics isn't about being cynical. It's about being aware and protecting ourselves and the systems designed to help people. Thanks for watching today. If you found this topic as fascinating as I did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. See you in the next video.